The morning light filters through the leaves, casting dancing shadows on the ground, much like the flickering memories that often visit the quiet corners of our minds. We all carry a collection of these shadows, some faint and others deeply etched into the fabric of our being, shaped by moments that once brought us pain or left us feeling breathless. It is natural to hold on to these fragments, to touch the edges of old wounds as if checking if they still have the power to hurt us. Yet, in this gentle space we share, there is no need to rush away from those feelings or to pretend they do not exist. Healing is not a race, nor is it a forceful erasing of what has been. It is more like the way a forest recovers after a long winter, slowly and patiently turning the fallen leaves into rich soil that nourishes new growth. When we look back at the path we have walked, we might see footprints that were heavy with sorrow or stumble upon the echoes of words that once stung our hearts. These are the scars of the past, the silent witnesses to our endurance. Understanding them requires a soft touch, a kind of compassion that does not demand immediate change but offers a steady hand to hold. There is a profound beauty in the way the ancient stories describe the human heart as a vast ocean, capable of containing both the turbulent storms and the deepest stillness. In the time of the Buddha, there were many who wandered through life carrying burdens that seemed too heavy for any single soul to bear. They sought something they could not quite name, a refuge from the persistent ache of regret or the sharp bite of betrayal. One such person was a woman named Punna, whose life was defined by the hardships of servitude and the constant demands of others. Her days were a repetitive cycle of labor, fetching water from the river under the scorching sun or in the biting cold of the dawn. One chilly morning, as she stood by the riverbank shivering, she noticed a Brahmin performing ritual ablutions, believing that the freezing water could wash away his sins and purify his spirit. Punna, with a clarity born of her own simple and difficult life, looked at him and asked a question that cut through the layers of his ritualistic beliefs. She wondered aloud if the water truly had the power to wash away the traces of one's actions, for if it did, then the fish, the crocodiles, and all the creatures living in the river would surely be the most purified and headed straight for heaven. Her words were not meant to be harsh, but rather a reflection of a deeper truth she had realized through her own suffering. She understood that the external washing of the body could never reach the internal wounds of the mind. The scars we carry from the past are not on our skin, but in the way we perceive ourselves and the world around us. To heal them, we must look inward with the same honesty and gentleness that Punna showed. The Brahmin, struck by the wisdom of this humble woman, realized that true purification comes from the transformation of the heart through kindness and understanding, not through outward ceremonies. This story reminds us that our healing begins the moment we stop looking for external cures for our internal pain. We often hope that time alone will mend us, or that a change in circumstances will make the past disappear. However, the past lives within us as a series of stories we tell ourselves. When we learn to tell those stories with more mercy, the narrative begins to shift. Imagine walking through a garden where some flowers have been bruised by a sudden hailstorm. You would not get angry at the flowers for being damaged, nor would you try to force their petals back into their original shape. Instead, you would provide them with extra care, ensuring they have enough water and sunlight to recover at their own pace. Our own hearts deserve that same level of tenderness. The mistakes we made, the moments we were treated unfairly, or the times we felt completely alone are like those bruised petals. They are part of our history, but they do not define our entire existence. There is a tendency to become so focused on the scar that we forget the strength of the skin that grew back to protect us. Compassion is the sunlight that allows us to see both the wound and the resilience side by side. It is a quiet internal whisper that says it is okay to be exactly where you are, even if you are still feeling the weight of yesterday. In the teachings of the Buddha, there is a beautiful emphasis on the concept of loving kindness, which starts with the self. It is often the hardest place to begin because we are usually our own strictest judges. We remember every stumble and every word we wish we could take back. Yet, if we were to see a dear friend carrying the same burdens, our first instinct would be to offer them comfort, not criticism. Why then do we deny ourselves that same grace? There was a young man during the Buddha's time who was deeply troubled by his past actions, feeling that he was unworthy of peace because of the chaos he had once caused. He spent his nights staring at the stars, feeling as though their light could never reach the darkness inside him. When he eventually found his way to the community of practitioners, he was surprised to find that no one looked at him through the lens of his past. They saw him as he was in that very moment, a human being seeking a way to be free from suffering. This acceptance was not a form of ignoring what had happened, but a recognition that the person who committed those acts was no longer the person standing before them. We are constantly changing, like a river that is never the same from one second to the next. The you who experienced that past hurt is not the you who is breathing here right now. By acknowledging this flow, we can start to loosen the grip that old memories have on our present joy. We can look at those scars not as marks of shame, but as maps of where we have been and how far we have traveled. It takes a great deal of courage to be gentle with ourselves, especially when the world around us often demands that we be tough or move on quickly. True strength is found in the ability to sit with our pain without letting it consume us, and to offer ourselves the same warmth we would give to a frightened child. As we navigate the complexities of our emotions, it is helpful to remember that healing is a rhythmic process. Some days feel light, as if the shadows have finally retreated, while other days the past might feel as close as our own breath. This ebb and flow is not a sign of failure but a natural part of the human experience. There is a story about a monk who spent years trying to find perfect stillness, only to be frustrated whenever a memory of his old life surfaced. He went to his teacher, complaining that his mind was like a crowded marketplace where he could never find a moment of peace. The teacher simply smiled and told him to stop trying to drive the people out of the market. Instead, he should learn to be the one who sits quietly in the middle of the crowd, observing everyone without getting caught up in their movements. When the monk stopped fighting his memories, they slowly lost their power to disturb him. They were still there, like people passing by, but they no longer demanded his total attention. This approach invites us to change our relationship with our past. Instead of seeing our history as a locked room we are afraid to enter, we can see it as a library of experiences that have contributed to our wisdom. Every difficult encounter and every moment of loss has the potential to deepen our capacity for empathy. When we have felt the sting of a certain type of pain, we become more attuned to that same pain in others. This shared human vulnerability is what connects us all. It is the common thread that weaves through every life story. When we use our own healing as a foundation for compassion toward others, the scars of the past are transformed into a source of light. They become the very thing that allows us to reach out and say to someone else, "I understand, I have been there too." Think of a ceramic bowl that has been broken and then repaired with gold. This ancient art form, known as kintsugi, does not try to hide the cracks. Instead, it highlights them, making the bowl even more beautiful and valuable than it was before it was broken. Our lives are very much like that. The places where we have been hurt and then healed are the parts of us that shine the brightest. They show that we have survived, that we have learned, and that we have the capacity to grow even in the midst of adversity. The gold in our lives is the compassion we apply to our wounds. It is the patient understanding that we are works in art in progress, and that every line and crease tells a story of perseverance. When we talk about using compassion to heal, we are talking about a very active and dynamic force. It is not a passive feeling of pity, but a courageous decision to meet life with an open heart. This means being present for the discomfort without trying to numb it or push it away. It means recognizing the patterns of thought that keep us stuck in the past and gently guiding our focus back to the present moment. There was a time when a group of travelers were lost in a dense forest, unable to find their way back to the main road. They were tired, hungry, and starting to turn on one another in their frustration. One of them, however, decided to stop walking and simply listen. By becoming still, they were able to hear the distant sound of a running stream, which eventually led them to safety. Our healing often works in the same way. When we stop the internal noise of blaming ourselves or others, we can hear the quiet guidance of our own inner wisdom. The scars of the past often carry the weight of things left unsaid or actions left undone. We might find ourselves caught in a loop of what if and if only, which are among the most exhausting thoughts a person can have. These thoughts are like trying to walk forward while keeping our eyes fixed on the ground behind us. We are bound to trip over the obstacles in front of us because we are not looking where we are going. Compassion helps us to turn our gaze around. It allows us to say, "I did the best I could with the understanding I had at the time." This simple acknowledgement can be incredibly liberating. It releases us from the impossible task of being perfect and allows us to be human. In the teachings of the Buddha, there is a concept known as the second arrow. The first arrow is the actual event that caused us pain, the loss, the betrayal, or the mistake. The second arrow is the suffering we cause ourselves by our reaction to that event, the self-criticism, the resentment, and the endless rumination. While we may not always be able to avoid the first arrow, we have the power to protect ourselves from the second one. Compassion is the shield that deflects that second arrow. It stops the cycle of suffering from continuing. When an old memory arises that brings a sense of shame or hurt, we can recognize it as the first arrow. We can acknowledge that it happened and that it was painful. But then, instead of firing the second arrow of self-judgment, we can breathe into the feeling and offer ourselves a moment of kindness. We can say to ourselves, "This is a moment of suffering, and may I be kind to myself in this moment." This practice does not mean that we become indifferent to our past or that we stop caring about the consequences of our actions. On the contrary, it makes us more responsible because we are no longer acting out of a place of woundedness. When we are healed, we can make choices that are rooted in clarity and love rather than fear and defense. The journey of healing is also a journey of discovery. As we peel back the layers of our past hurts, we often find qualities within ourselves that we didn't know existed. We find a depth of resilience, a capacity for forgiveness, and a profound sense of peace that is not dependent on external conditions. This peace is always there, like the sky that remains clear and vast above the passing clouds. The clouds of our past may temporarily obscure it, but they can never change the nature of the sky itself. There was an old woman who lived in a small village, known for her constant smile and her ability to make anyone feel at ease. People often wondered how she could be so happy despite having lost so much in her life. When someone finally asked her secret, she took them to her small garden and pointed to a gnarled old tree. She explained that when the tree was young, it had been bent by a heavy stone. For a long time, it struggled to grow, its trunk twisting in an awkward shape. But instead of giving up, the tree grew around the stone, incorporating it into its structure. Now, that very stone provided the tree with extra stability during high winds. She said that her past sorrows were her stones. She didn't try to remove them, she simply learned to grow around them until they became a part of her strength. This is the essence of healing the scars of the past. We don't need to be fixed, because we were never truly broken. We are simply in the process of growing around our experiences. The path of compassion also involves the way we view those who may have caused us pain. This is perhaps the most challenging aspect of healing. It is easy to feel compassion for ourselves when we are suffering, but it is much harder to extend that same feeling towards someone who has wronged us. However, holding on to anger and resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to be harmed. It only keeps the wound open and prevents the scar from ever fully forming. Compassion for others does not mean condoning their behavior or allowing ourselves to be mistreated. It simply means recognizing that their actions were likely born out of their own confusion, fear, or unhealed wounds. Everyone is fighting a battle we know nothing about, and often, people hurt others because they are hurting deeply themselves. There is a story of a merchant who was cheated by a business partner he had trusted for many years. For a long time, he was consumed by thoughts of revenge, unable to focus on his work or enjoy his family. He felt as though the betrayal had stolen his peace of mind. One day, he encountered a traveling sage and shared his story. The sage asked him if he would rather be the man who was cheated or the man who did the cheating. The merchant thought for a moment and realized that, despite his loss, he would much rather have his integrity intact than be someone who lives with the burden of dishonesty. The sage told him that his partner was already suffering from the weight of his own actions, even if it didn't look like it on the surface. By letting go of his anger, the merchant was not doing a favor for his partner, he was doing a favor for himself. He was reclaiming his own life from the shadow of the past. When we choose to forgive, we are not saying that what happened was right. We are saying that we will no longer let it have power over our present. Forgiveness is a gift we give to ourselves. It is the act of cutting the invisible threads that bind us to the person or the event that hurt us. It allows us to step into the future with a lighter heart and a clearer mind. This process can take time, and it often happens in small stages. We might forgive a little bit today and a little bit more tomorrow. Some days we might feel as though we have taken a step back, but even that is part of the movement. The intention to forgive is like planting a seed. Even if we don't see the sprout right away, the work is happening beneath the surface. As we continue to walk this path, we find that our hearts become more spacious. There is room for the memories of the past without them feeling like they are crowding out the joy of the present. We begin to move through the world with a sense of ease, knowing that whatever comes our way, we have the tools to meet it with kindness. We learn to appreciate the simple things, the warmth of the sun on our skin, the sound of a bird's song, the taste of a cool glass of water. These small moments are where life truly happens. The past is a memory, and the future is a dream, but the present is the only place where we can truly experience peace. By healing our old wounds, we are making ourselves more available to the beauty of the now. Every step we take toward healing is a victory, not just for ourselves but for everyone around us. When we are at peace, our presence becomes a source of calm for others. We don't have to say anything, our energy speaks for itself. This is the quiet power of a healed heart. It radiates a sense of stability and warmth that can be felt by those who come into contact with us. In this way, our individual healing contributes to the healing of the world. We are all interconnected, and the kindness we show to ourselves ripples outward in ways we may never fully realize. So, let us continue to breathe into our experiences, to hold our scars with reverence, and to trust in the boundless capacity of the human heart to mend and to flourish. There is a deep well of tranquility within you that no past event can ever diminish. It is always there, waiting for you to return to it. Each breath is an opportunity to begin again, to let go of what no longer serves you, and to embrace the infinite possibilities of this moment. The journey of soothing and healing is a sacred one, a return to the essence of who we are before the world told us who we should be. It is a process of unlearning the habits of fear and relearning the language of love. As we do this, we might find that the very things we once tried to hide are now the things that make us most approachable and authentic. Our vulnerability is not a weakness, it is the bridge that allows us to connect deeply with others. When we are honest about our struggles and our healing, we give others permission to do the same. This creates a community of shared understanding, where no one has to carry their burdens alone. In the presence of such collective compassion, the scars of the past begin to lose their sharpness, becoming gentle reminders of the journey we have shared. The stories we tell ourselves about our past are like the clothes we wear. Some are old and tattered, no longer fitting the person we have become. We can choose to set them aside and dress ourselves in the new garments of self-compassion and hope. This is not about forgetting where we came from, but about choosing how we want to carry our history into the future. We can carry it as a weight that slows us down, or as a source of wisdom that guides our steps. The choice is ours in every moment. As the day unfolds, may you move with the awareness that you are worthy of all the kindness you can offer yourself. May you find moments of stillness where you can simply be, without the need to do or achieve anything. In that stillness, may you hear the whisper of your own heart, telling you that you are whole, you are enough, and you are loved exactly as you are. The ancient texts often speak of the diamond mind, a state of clarity and strength that remains unshaken by the ups and downs of life. This diamond is not something we have to create, it is something we already possess, buried beneath the dust of our experiences. Healing is the process of gently wiping away that dust so that our inner brilliance can shine through. Every time we choose compassion over judgment, we are polishing that diamond. Every time we offer ourselves a moment of forgiveness, we are revealing a bit more of our true nature. It is a lifelong practice, one that requires patience and dedication, but the rewards are immeasurable. The peace that comes from a healed heart is more valuable than any worldly treasure. It is a peace that can withstand any storm and light up the darkest night. As we sit together in this shared contemplation, let us acknowledge the courage it takes to look at our wounds and decide to heal them. It is perhaps the most significant work we will ever do. It is the work of transforming suffering into wisdom and pain into love. There is a certain quiet joy that comes from realizing that our past no longer has a hold on us. It is the joy of a bird that has finally found the strength to fly after its wing has mended. The sky is vast and open, and the world is full of beauty waiting to be discovered. May your wings be strong, and may your flight be graceful. Trust in the process, trust in yourself, and know that every moment is a new beginning. Consider for a moment the way a mountain stands firm despite the changing seasons. In the winter, it is covered in snow and ice, and in the summer, it is bathed in warmth. The mountain does not try to hold on to the snow, nor does it try to rush the arrival of the sun. It simply exists, allowing each season to pass over it while remaining rooted in its own essential nature. We can learn a lot from the mountain. Our past experiences are like the seasons. They come and they go, sometimes bringing coldness and sometimes warmth. If we can remain rooted in our own presence, we can allow these experiences to pass through us without being swept away by them. We can observe the changing landscape of our emotions with a sense of equanimity, knowing that beneath the surface, we are as solid and enduring as the mountain itself. This sense of inner stability is what allows us to face our scars without fear. We know that they are just part of the surface, part of the story, but they are not the whole truth of who we are. The truth is much deeper and more expansive than any story could ever capture. It is found in the silent gaps between our thoughts, in the rhythm of our breath, and in the boundless capacity for love that exists within every human being. When we connect with this deeper truth, the wounds of the past naturally begin to lose their power. They become like ripples on the surface of a deep lake. They may disturb the water for a moment, but the depths remain calm and untouched. There was a story told of a group of students who were traveling with their teacher across a dry, dusty plain. They were all thirsty and tired, and some were beginning to complain about the harsh conditions. The teacher stopped and pointed to a small, seemingly withered plant growing out of a crack in the dry earth. He asked them what they saw. Most of the students saw a dying weed, a sign of the desolation surrounding them. But one student looked closer and saw a tiny, vibrant bud tucked away near the stem, ready to bloom at the first sign of rain. The teacher explained that life is always there, even in the most unlikely places, waiting for the right conditions to reveal itself. Our healing is like that tiny bud. Even when we feel as though our lives are a dry plain, the potential for growth and beauty is always present within us. We just need to provide ourselves with the rain of compassion to help that potential flourish. Sometimes, the rain we need is simply the willingness to be still and listen to the stories our hearts are trying to tell us. We spend so much of our lives trying to drown out those stories with busyness, noise, and distractions. But the stories don't go away, they just wait for a quiet moment to resurface. When we finally stop and listen, we might find that the stories aren't as scary as we thought they were. They are often just parts of ourselves that are longing for attention and care. By giving them that attention, we are practicing a form of deep listening that is essential for healing. We are saying to those wounded parts of ourselves, I see you, I hear you, and you are safe now. This practice of deep listening also extends to the way we interact with others. When we are able to listen to ourselves with compassion, we become better at listening to the people in our lives. We start to see beneath the surface of their words and actions, recognizing the shared humanity that lies underneath. We become more patient, more understanding, and more willing to offer a kind word or a supportive gesture. This is how the healing of one person becomes the healing of a community. It is a beautiful, interconnected web of care that supports us all. Every act of kindness, no matter how small, adds to the collective well-being of the world. As the sun continues its journey across the sky, let us carry this sense of gentleness with us into our daily activities. Whether we are working, spending time with family, or simply resting, we can do so with an awareness of the peace that is always available to us. We don't have to wait for a special time or place to practice compassion. It is something we can do in every moment, with every breath. It is the simple act of choosing to be kind, both to ourselves and to others. It is the decision to live from the heart, rather than from our old wounds. The scars of the past are not something to be feared or hidden. They are part of the rich tapestry of our lives, adding depth and character to who we are. They are a testament to our strength and our capacity to heal. As we move forward, let us do so with our heads held high, knowing that we have the power to transform our experiences into something beautiful. Let us trust in the wisdom of our own hearts and the boundless grace of the path we are on. Every step is a new opportunity, every breath a new life. There is so much beauty waiting to be seen, so much love waiting to be shared. May you be well, may you be happy, and may you find the peace that you truly deserve. The light of the afternoon begins to soften, painting everything in warm, golden hues. This transition from the brightness of midday to the gentleness of the evening mirrors the journey of healing. There is a period of intense focus and effort, followed by a time of integration and rest. Both are necessary. We cannot always be in the midst of doing our healing. We must also allow ourselves time to simply be in our healed state. This means making room for joy, for laughter, and for the simple pleasures that make life worth living. It means recognizing that we are more than our past hurts, and that we have a right to experience happiness in the here and now. There was once a village located at the foot of a great mountain range. Every year, the villagers would gather to celebrate the arrival of spring, a time of renewal and hope. One year, a young man who had been traveling for a long time returned to the village. He was weary and carried the marks of his difficult journey on his face and in his eyes. The villagers welcomed him back with open arms, but he found it hard to join in their celebrations. He felt as though his experiences had separated him from their simple joy. An elder of the village, seeing his struggle, took him aside and showed him a piece of woven cloth. The cloth was made of many different threads, some bright and colorful, some dark and somber. The elder explained that without the dark threads, the pattern of the cloth would be incomplete. It was the contrast between the light and the dark that made the fabric so beautiful and strong. The young man looked at the cloth and then at the faces of the villagers. He realized that they, too, had their own dark threads, their own stories of loss and hardship. They weren't celebrating because their lives were perfect. They were celebrating because they had survived the winter and were ready to embrace the new growth of spring. This realization allowed him to let go of his sense of isolation. He began to see his own difficult journey as part of the larger pattern of his life, a pattern that was still being woven. He joined the celebration, not by forgetting his past, but by bringing the wisdom he had gained into the joy of the present. This is the invitation that healing offers us. It is not an invitation to return to who we were before the pain, but to become a more integrated and compassionate version of ourselves. It is about bringing all the parts of our story together, the light and the dark, and seeing the beauty in the whole. When we do this, we no longer feel the need to hide our scars. They are simply part of the pattern, part of the unique and wonderful person we are today. We can move through the world with a sense of wholeness, knowing that nothing has been lost and everything has been gained. The path of compassion is a path of homecoming. It is a return to the true self, the self that is inherently wise, kind, and at peace. This self has always been there, even during the most difficult times. It is the part of us that observed the pain without being destroyed by it. It is the quiet voice that encouraged us to keep going when we felt like giving up. By practicing self-compassion, we are strengthening our connection to this true self. We are creating a safe harbor within ourselves where we can always find refuge. In the stories of the Buddha, we often hear about the power of a single moment of clarity. A person might be going about their daily life, caught up in their worries and desires, and suddenly, they see something that changes their entire perspective. This moment of awakening is not something reserved for the few, it is a possibility for everyone. It can happen while you are walking down the street, washing the dishes, or simply sitting in silence. It is the moment when you realize that you are not your past, you are not your wounds, and you are not your fears. You are the awareness that is experiencing all of these things. This realization is the ultimate healing. It is the point where the scars of the past truly become transparent, revealing the light that has always been shining behind them. As we conclude this part of our journey together, let us carry the image of the Kintsugi bowl in our hearts. Let us see the gold in our own cracks and the beauty in our own resilience. Let us be patient with our healing, knowing that it is a natural and unfolding process. And most importantly, let us be kind to ourselves, for it is through kindness that we truly find our way home. The journey continues, and each step is filled with the promise of new discoveries and deeper peace. Keep walking with an open heart and a gentle spirit, for you are never alone on this path. Every person you meet is also carrying their own story, and every act of compassion you offer ripples out to touch them as well. Together, we are creating a world that is a little more tender, a little more understanding, and a lot more healed. The air around us feels a bit lighter now, doesn't it? As if by simply talking about these things, we have begun to disperse some of the heavy clouds. This is the power of shared intention. When we come together with the desire to heal and to understand, we create a space where transformation is possible. Let us hold on to this feeling as we move through the rest of our day. Let it be a reminder of the peace that is always within reach. No matter what the past has held, the present moment is a clean slate, a fresh start. You have everything you need to heal, to grow, and to thrive. Trust in your own inner light, and let it guide you forward. There is a magnificent horizon ahead, and you are ready to meet it with all the grace and wisdom you have gathered along the way. The gentle rhythm of our breathing connects us to the ancient earth, reminding us that we are part of a cycle much larger than our individual sorrows. Just as the tide pulls back to the vastness of the sea only to return with fresh energy, our hearts possess a natural capacity to retreat, gather strength, and flow forward once again. When we think about the people who walked the earth thousands of years ago, we realize that the human experience of longing, loss, and the desire for peace has remained unchanged. In the shadow of the Himalayas, there were those who sat by small fires, much like we might sit in our living rooms today, pondering the same questions about how to move past the things that have hurt us. They understood that the mind is like a restless bird, always wanting to fly back to the familiar branches of the past, even if those branches are sharp and thorny. To train this bird to find a new place to rest requires not force, but a profound sense of patience and a handful of the seeds of kindness. There is a story of a young man named Anuruddha who once found himself overwhelmed by the expectations placed upon him by his family and society. He felt as though his life was a series of masks he had to wear, and each mask carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken rules. One evening, while walking through a quiet grove, he encountered an elderly monk who was simply sitting and watching the sunset. The monk did not offer him a lecture or a complex set of instructions. Instead, he pointed to the sky and remarked on how the colors changed so effortlessly, without any struggle or resistance. He told Anuruddha that the clouds do not try to hold on to their shape, and the sky does not try to keep the colors from fading. Everything is in a constant state of letting go. This simple observation sparked a shift in the young man's heart. He realized that his pain came from trying to hold on to a version of himself that no longer existed, and from trying to control how others perceived him. We often do the same thing with our old wounds. We hold on to the shape of the hurt, fearing that if we let it go, we might lose a part of our identity. We might worry that if we stop being the person who was betrayed or the person who failed, we won't know who we are anymore. But the space created by letting go is not an empty void, it is a fertile ground where new possibilities can take root. Compassion is the tool we use to clear that ground. It allows us to look at the masks of our past and say, "Thank you for trying to protect me, but I don't need you to be so heavy anymore." We can begin to inhabit our lives with a sense of lightness, moving through the world like the changing colors of the sunset, allowing each moment to be exactly what it is without the need to freeze it in time. In the quiet reflections of the heart, we might discover that our greatest fears are often just shadows cast by things we have already survived. There was a traveler who was terrified of crossing a certain bridge because he remembered a time when it had swayed dangerously in a storm. For years, he took the long way around, adding hours of exhaustion to his journey. One day, he met a child who was skipping across that very bridge, laughing and calling out to the birds. The traveler realized that while his memory of the storm was real, the bridge had been reinforced and the storm had long since passed. The only thing keeping him from the shorter path was his own internal replay of a past event. When we apply compassion to our scars, we are like that traveler finally stepping onto the bridge. We acknowledge the storm that happened, but we also acknowledge that the present moment is safe. We give ourselves permission to take the shorter, more peaceful path. The language of the soul is often spoken in silence, and it is in those silent moments that we can hear the most profound truths. When we stop trying to explain our pain away or fix it with logic, we allow it to speak for itself. It might tell us that it is tired of being carried around. It might tell us that it is ready to be transformed into wisdom. There was a woman in a bustling city who felt as though she was drowning in the noise of her own regrets. She decided to spend a day in complete silence, not speaking to anyone or even looking at her reflection. At first, the noise in her head became louder, a cacophony of voices reminding her of every mistake. But as the hours passed, the voices began to lose their edge. They became like the distant hum of traffic, present but no longer intrusive. In the stillness, she found a sense of clarity that she had never known. She realized that the regrets were not her, they were just thoughts passing through her awareness. This realization is a turning point in the healing process. It is the moment we stop identifying with our wounds and start identifying with the one who observes the wounds. This observer is inherently compassionate because it does not judge, it only sees. It sees the hurt, the fear, and the longing, and it holds all of it in a warm embrace of awareness. This is the kind roots of our being, the part of us that remains connected to the source of all life and love. When we nourish these roots, the entire tree of our existence begins to flourish. We become more stable, more resilient, and more capable of weathering whatever challenges come our way. We realize that we have an internal reservoir of peace that can never be depleted, no matter how much we draw from it. Think of the way a small stream eventually carves a path through solid rock. It doesn't do it by force, but by persistence and by following the natural flow of the land. Our healing works in much the same way. We don't need to shatter our old patterns with a single blow. We just need to keep the stream of compassion flowing, day after day, moment after moment. Over time, that gentle flow will wear down the sharp edges of our resentment and the hardness of our self-criticism. It will create a new path for our energy to travel, one that is characterized by ease and grace. We might not notice the change happening from one day to the next, but one day we will look back and realize that the landscape of our inner world has been completely transformed. There is a beautiful story about a potter who was famous for creating the most exquisite vases. One day, a visitor noticed that the potter always kept a small pile of broken shards in the corner of his workshop. When asked why, the potter explained that he sometimes ground those shards into a fine powder and mixed them into the clay of his new creations. He said that the history of the broken pieces gave the new vases a depth and a character that they wouldn't otherwise have. He didn't see the shards as waste, but as a valuable ingredient. Our lives are like that clay. The experiences that once broke us are not meant to be discarded. When we process them with compassion and wisdom, they become the very things that give our lives their unique beauty and strength. They are the powder that makes our current form more vibrant and meaningful. When we are in the midst of healing, it can be helpful to find small ways to express our inner journey. Perhaps it is through a few lines of poetry, a simple drawing, or the way we care for a plant on our windowsill. These acts of creation are a way of honoring our progress and acknowledging the beauty that is emerging from our struggle. They are physical manifestations of our internal shift. There was a man who had spent years feeling bitter about a missed opportunity in his youth. One spring, he decided to plant a garden, dedicating each flower to a different part of his past. As the garden grew and bloomed, he found that his bitterness was replaced by a sense of wonder at the cycle of life. He realized that while that one door had closed, many others had opened, and he was finally able to walk through them with a grateful heart. Compassion also teaches us the importance of boundaries. Healing doesn't mean that we have to be a doormat for others or that we must put ourselves in harm's way. True compassion for ourselves involves protecting our peace and being honest about what we can and cannot handle. It is an act of love to say no to things that drain our energy or remind us of old traumas in a way that is not helpful. We are the guardians of our own healing space, and it is up to us to ensure that it remains a place of safety and growth. When we set boundaries with kindness, we are not pushing people away, we are simply defining the conditions under which we can best relate to them and to ourselves. Consider the life of a tree that has survived a forest fire. Its bark may be blackened and some of its branches may be gone, but deep inside, the sap is still flowing and the roots are still reaching for water. In the years following the fire, the tree grows new leaves that are even greener than before, and its presence provides shelter for the animals that return to the area. The fire was a devastating event, but it also cleared away the underbrush and allowed for new life to emerge. Our own personal fires, the losses and the traumas, can have a similar effect. They can burn away the things that were no longer serving us, leaving room for a more authentic and purposeful way of living. The scars we carry are the blackened bark, a sign of our survival and a symbol of our renewed vitality. The journey of healing is not just about the individual, it is about the way we relate to the entire human family. When we heal our own wounds, we become a more compassionate presence in the world. We are less likely to react out of anger or fear, and more likely to respond with understanding and empathy. We begin to see that everyone is carrying their own invisible burdens, and this realization fosters a sense of solidarity and connection. We start to treat others with the same gentleness that we are learning to offer ourselves. This is how peace is built, one heart at a time. It starts with the quiet decision to be kind to the person we see in the mirror, and it radiates outward to encompass everyone we meet. In the teachings of the Buddha, there is a strong emphasis on the power of our thoughts. Our thoughts shape our reality, and the stories we tell ourselves about the past can either keep us stuck or set us free. By consciously choosing to tell a more compassionate story, we are literally rewiring our brains for peace. We are training ourselves to look for the lessons rather than the mistakes, and to see the growth rather than the damage. This doesn't mean we ignore the pain, but we stop giving it the starring role in our lives. We relegate it to the background, allowing the light of our present awareness to take center stage. There was a famous monk who used to say that the mind is like a garden, whatever you plant there will grow. If you plant seeds of resentment, you will harvest a life of bitterness. But if you plant seeds of compassion, you will harvest a life of profound joy and serenity. Healing is also about reclaiming our sense of playfulness and curiosity. When we are weighed down by the past, we often lose our ability to see the world with wonder. We become cynical and guarded, expecting the worst and missing the beauty that is right in front of us. Compassion helps us to drop our guard and to approach life with an open and inquisitive mind. We start to notice the small miracles again, the way the light catches a spiderweb, the sound of laughter in the distance, the feeling of a cool breeze on a warm day. These moments are the evidence that life is still good, and that we are still capable of experiencing its magic. We realize that our capacity for joy was never truly lost, it was just hidden under a layer of dust. Imagine a large, old-fashioned clock with many intricate gears and wheels. If one of those gears gets stuck, the whole clock stops working properly. Our past traumas can be like those stuck gears, causing our entire emotional system to grind to a halt. Compassion is the oil that loosens those gears and allows them to turn smoothly once again. It doesn't happen all at once, but with a little bit of attention and care, the rhythm of our life begins to find its natural pace. We start to feel more synchronized with the world around us, and our energy begins to flow in a more balanced and harmonious way. We find ourselves moving through the day with a sense of purpose and ease, no longer feeling as though we are constantly fighting an internal battle. The process of healing is also a journey of rediscovering our own inherent worthiness. We often feel as though our mistakes or our traumas have made us less valuable, as if we are somehow damaged goods. But this is a profound misunderstanding of our true nature. Our value is not something that can be earned or lost, it is an intrinsic part of who we are. It is like the value of a gold coin, even if it is covered in mud or buried in the earth, it is still made of gold. Our task is simply to wash away the mud of our past experiences so that our true worth can be seen. Compassion is the water that performs this cleaning. It gently reminds us that we are worthy of love, worthy of peace, and worthy of all the good things that life has to offer, regardless of what has happened to us. There was a student who asked his teacher how he could ever hope to be enlightened when he had such a troubled past. The teacher took him to a nearby pond and pointed to a lotus flower blooming on the surface. He explained that the lotus grows in the mud, at the bottom of the pond, in the dark and murky water. But when it reaches the surface and opens its petals to the sun, it is completely pure and untouched by the mud from which it came. The teacher told the student that he was like that lotus. His past was the mud, the necessary environment for his growth, but it did not define the beauty of his bloom. This is a powerful metaphor for our own lives. Our past experiences, no matter how difficult, can provide the nutrients we need to develop wisdom and compassion. They are the foundation upon which we can build a life of great meaning and beauty. As we continue to explore the landscape of our hearts, let us be mindful of the language we use when we talk to ourselves. Instead of saying, "Should be over this by now," we can say, "I am healing at my own pace, and that is okay." Instead of saying, "I am so broken," we can say, "I am a work in progress, and my scars are a part of my unique journey." This shift in language is a profound act of self-compassion. It changes our internal environment from one of criticism to one of support. It creates a space where we can feel safe enough to explore our deepest wounds and to bring them into the light of awareness. We become our own best friend and most trusted ally. Think of a mother bird teaching her young to fly. She doesn't push them out of the nest before they are ready, and she is always there to catch them if they fall. She encourages them with gentle chirps and shows them the way by example. We can be like that mother bird for ourselves. We can provide ourselves with the encouragement and the safety we need to take those first tentative steps toward healing. We can celebrate our small successes and offer ourselves comfort when we stumble. This nurturing attitude is what allows us to eventually soar, leaving the confines of our old fears behind and discovering the vast sky of our potential. The energy of compassion is also a powerful force for forgiveness. When we understand the causes and conditions that led to a certain event, it becomes easier to let go of the blame. This doesn't mean we excuse the behavior, but we stop carrying the burden of the anger. We realize that everyone is acting from their own level of consciousness, and that people often hurt others because they are stuck in their own cycles of suffering. By choosing to forgive, we are breaking that cycle and choosing a different path for ourselves. We are deciding that our future will not be dictated by the actions of others. We are taking back our power and choosing to live a life of freedom and peace. There was a man who had been estranged from his brother for many years due to a misunderstanding that had escalated into a bitter feud. For a long time, he felt as though he was right and his brother was wrong, and he waited for an apology that never came. One day, he attended a talk on compassion and was struck by the idea that his anger was only hurting himself. He decided to write a letter to his brother, not to argue about the past, but simply to express his desire for peace. He didn't know if his brother would respond, but as soon as he dropped the letter in the mailbox, he felt a huge weight lift off his chest. He realized that his peace of mind was not dependent on his brother's reaction, but on his own willingness to let go. This is the essence of true forgiveness. It is an internal shift that frees us from the past, regardless of external circumstances. Healing the scars of the past is also about learning to live in the present moment. When we are caught up in our memories, we are not fully alive in the here and now. We miss the beauty of the present because we are too busy looking back at what was or worrying about what might be. Compassion helps us to anchor ourselves in the present by bringing our attention to our breath and our physical sensations. It teaches us to appreciate the simple reality of being alive, right here and right now. We start to realize that the past is just a collection of thoughts, and that those thoughts have no power over us unless we give it to them. In the present moment, we are always safe, always whole, and always free to choose how we want to be. Consider the way a master musician plays a beautiful piece of music. They don't dwell on the notes they played a minute ago, nor do they worry about the notes they will play at the end of the piece. They are completely immersed in the note they are playing right now. They allow the music to flow through them, creating a seamless and beautiful experience for themselves and their listeners. Our lives can be like that music. When we are fully present, we can live with a sense of flow and harmony that is truly beautiful. Our past experiences become like the previous notes in the song. They provide the context and the depth, but the focus is always on the current melody. By living in the present, we are creating a life that is a masterpiece of compassion and awareness. The journey of healing is a path that leads us deeper into the heart of what it means to be human. It is a journey of uncovering the layers of our conditioning and discovering the radiant being that lives underneath. It is a path of transformation, where our pain is turned into wisdom and our scars are turned into gold. Every step we take on this path is a gift to ourselves and to the world. We are becoming more whole, more authentic, and more capable of love. We are learning to walk through the world with a sense of grace and ease, knowing that we are always supported by the kind roots of our own being. As the day turns toward evening, the shadows grow long and the world begins to settle into a quiet stillness. This is a wonderful time to practice a simple reflection on our journey of healing. We can sit quietly for a few moments, feeling the weight of our body on the chair or the ground, and noticing the natural rhythm of our breath. We can bring to mind a memory from the past that has caused us pain, and instead of pushing it away, we can meet it with a sense of gentle curiosity. We can say to that memory, "I see you, and I understand that you were a part of my journey." And then, we can offer ourselves a few words of kindness, such as, "May I be peaceful, may I be free from suffering, and may I be at ease." This practice is like watering the seeds of compassion in our own hearts. It helps them to grow and to eventually bloom into a life of lasting peace. It is a simple yet profound way of honoring our own experience and supporting our own healing. We don't need to do it perfectly, we just need to do it with sincerity and gentleness. Every moment of compassion is a step toward wholeness, and every breath is a chance to begin again. We are never stuck in the past, we are always in the process of becoming something new. The scars of our history are the markings of our growth, the signs that we have lived and loved and learned. They are not something to be ashamed of, but something to be celebrated. There was a village elder who was known for his incredible memory. He could remember every detail of every event that had ever happened in the village. But when people asked him about the most important thing he had learned in his long life, he didn't talk about the past. He talked about the importance of being kind to one another in the present. He said that while it is good to remember where we came from, it is even better to remember that we are all traveling together right now. He taught the villagers that the best way to honor the past is to live a life of compassion and service in the present. This is the wisdom that we can all carry with us. Our history provides the foundation, but our present actions are what build the house. As we move forward, let us carry the image of the mountain with us, steady, rooted, and unshaken by the passing seasons. Let us remember that beneath the surface of our ever-changing emotions, there is a core of stillness that is always there. When we feel overwhelmed by the shadows of the past, we can return to this stillness and find our center. We can breathe in the strength of the mountain and breathe out the tension of our old wounds. We can trust that we have the capacity to handle whatever life brings our way, and that we are never alone in our struggle. The entire universe is supporting our journey toward healing and wholeness. Every time we choose compassion, we are contributing to the collective healing of the world. Our individual peace is not separate from the peace of others. When we are at peace with our own past, we bring a sense of calm and stability to everyone we encounter. We become a living example of what is possible when we meet life with an open heart. This is the greatest gift we can give to the world, a heart that is healed and full of love. So, let us continue to walk this path with courage and gentleness, knowing that every step is a victory and every moment is a miracle. The journey of healing is a sacred dance between the past and the present, a dance of letting go and making room for the new. It is a process of unfolding, like the petals of a flower opening to the morning sun. As we do this, we find that our scars are not obstacles to our happiness, but gateways to a deeper and more profound sense of peace. They are the marks of our humanity and the symbols of our resilience. We can wear them with pride, knowing that they have made us the beautiful and complex beings we are today. The past is a teacher, the present is a playground, and the future is a horizon of infinite possibilities. As we rest in this space of shared understanding, let us offer a silent wish for all those who are currently struggling with their own scars of the past. May they find the courage to be gentle with themselves, and may they discover the healing power of compassion. May they know that they are not alone, and that there is a path toward peace and wholeness. Our hearts are vast enough to contain all of it, the pain and the joy, the shadows and the light. We are the masters of our own inner world, and we have the power to create a life of profound meaning and beauty. Trust in the process, trust in yourself, and know that you are always worthy of the best that life has to offer. The light within you is stronger than any shadow, and it will always guide you home. The quiet transition into this new moment feels like a soft breeze moving through an open window, carrying away the dust of long-held grievances and leaving behind a space of clarity. There is a certain kind of magic in the way the heart begins to soften when we stop fighting the reality of what has happened. We often spend so much energy trying to build walls around our memories, hoping that if we lock them away tightly enough, they will lose their power to affect us. Yet, true healing occurs not by building walls, but by opening doors. When we invite our past into the present with a spirit of hospitality rather than hostility, something remarkable happens. The jagged edges of our stories begin to smooth out, much like rough stones being tumbled in a river until they become polished and round. This is the natural progression of a life lived with an open heart, a gradual turning of pain into a source of profound strength and quiet dignity. In the ancient times, there was a young man named Sona who was known for his incredible diligence and effort. He practiced his meditations with such intensity that his feet began to bleed from walking back and forth, yet he felt no closer to the peace he so desperately sought. He was pushing against his own limits, trying to force his mind into submission, much like we sometimes try to force ourselves to get over our past traumas. The Buddha, noticing Sona's struggle, sat down with him and asked about his life before he became a monk. Sona had been a skilled musician, particularly adept at playing the lute. The Buddha asked him what happened if the strings of the lute were tuned too tight. Sona replied that the strings would snap and the music would be lost. And what happened if the strings were too loose? Sona explained that the lute would produce no sound at all. The Buddha then smiled and told him that the path to peace is found in the middle, in the perfect tension that is neither too tight nor too loose. This wisdom is a gentle reminder for all of us as we navigate the scars of our history. If we hold on to our pain too tightly, we become brittle and prone to breaking under the weight of our own expectations. If we are too loose, ignoring the lessons our past has to offer, we wander aimlessly without a sense of direction. The middle path of compassion involves finding that sweet spot where we acknowledge our history without letting it define our entire song. We tune our hearts with the steady hand of awareness, ensuring that the music we create today is harmonious and resonant. We learn to listen to the vibration of our own souls, adjusting the tension as needed, and trusting that we have the innate ability to produce a melody that is beautiful and true. Think of the way a forest floor is covered in layers of fallen needles and decaying wood. To an outsider, it might look like a mess of things that have died and been forgotten. But to the trees, this layer is the very source of their life. It provides the nutrients, the moisture, and the protection they need to grow tall and reach for the sun. Our past experiences, including the ones that felt like endings, are the forest floor of our lives. They are not meant to be cleared away or hidden under a carpet of superficial positivity. They are meant to be integrated, to be allowed to break down and transform into the wisdom that feeds our current growth. When we look at our scars through this lens, we see that they are not signs of failure, but evidence of a life that is deeply rooted and constantly renewing itself. There was once a traveler who found herself standing at the edge of a wide, fast-flowing river. She needed to get to the other side, but the water looked deep and the current was strong. She noticed an old man sitting nearby, calmly weaving a basket from reeds. She asked him for the best way to cross, expecting him to point her to a bridge or a shallow spot. Instead, the man told her that the river was not an obstacle to be overcome, but a path to be followed. He suggested that instead of trying to fight the current, she should build a small raft and allow the river to carry her where she needed to go. He explained that the river knew the way better than she did. Our emotions are often like that river. We try to swim against the tide of our grief or our anger, exhausting ourselves in the process. Compassion is the act of building that raft. It is the willingness to sit with our feelings and allow them to take us where we need to go, trusting that the flow of life will eventually lead us to a place of safety and peace. When we stop resisting the movement of our inner world, we find that the current is not as dangerous as we feared. It is simply the energy of life moving through us. By riding the waves of our experiences with awareness, we gain a new perspective on our journey. We see that the river of our past has carved out beautiful canyons of understanding within us. It has shaped us into people who are more resilient, more empathetic, and more capable of navigating the complexities of the human condition. We realize that we don't need to be afraid of the water, we just need to learn how to float. This sense of surrender is not a sign of weakness, but a profound expression of trust in the natural order of things. There is a story about a village that was famous for its beautiful bells. Each bell was cast with a unique blend of metals, and when they were struck, the sound was said to be so pure that it could clear the mind of all worry. One day, a great storm caused the largest bell to fall from its tower and crack. The villagers were devastated, thinking that the voice of their village had been silenced forever. But a wandering craftsman arrived and offered to repair the bell. Instead of trying to hide the crack, he filled it with a silver alloy that caught the light. When the bell was struck again, the sound was different. It had a new depth and a haunting resonance that it hadn't possessed before. The villagers realized that the crack had not ruined the bell, it had given it a new and more complex voice. Our own hearts are like those bells. The cracks we have experienced through loss or heartbreak have not silenced our capacity for joy. They have simply given our joy a new resonance, a depth that only comes from having known both the heights of happiness and the depths of sorrow. This new resonance is what allows us to connect so deeply with others. When we speak from a place of healed brokenness, our words carry a weight and a sincerity that can be felt by everyone around us. We are no longer speaking from a place of theory, but from a place of lived experience. We become the craftsmen of our own lives, filling our cracks with the silver of compassion and turning our history into a masterpiece of resilience. We move through the world with a sense of quiet confidence, knowing that our worth is not measured by our perfection, but by our ability to find beauty in our imperfections. We are all cracked bells, in one way or another, and our collective music is all the more beautiful because of it. In the gardens of the heart, there is a flower called the flower of forgiveness, that only blooms when it is watered with the tears of self-compassion. It is a rare and delicate blossom, and it requires a great deal of patience to cultivate. Many people try to force it to grow by telling themselves they should forgive, but the flower cannot be rushed. It needs the right conditions, a soil of understanding, a sun of kindness, and the gentle rain of acceptance. There was a man who spent his whole life holding a grudge against a neighbor over a piece of land. He thought that by staying angry, he was protecting his dignity. But as the years passed, his anger only made him feel small and bitter. One morning, he looked out at his garden and realized that the neighbor's flowers were just as beautiful as his own. He felt a sudden wave of compassion for the neighbor, who was also aging and facing the same struggles of life. In that moment, the flower of forgiveness finally bloomed in his heart. He realized that the land didn't matter as much as the peace of his own soul. This story teaches us that forgiveness is not something we do for others, it is a gift we give to ourselves. It is the act of releasing the heavy stones we have been carrying, stones that have only served to weigh us down and prevent us from moving forward. When we forgive, we are not saying that what happened was acceptable. We are saying that we are no longer willing to be a prisoner of the past. We are choosing to reclaim our energy and focus it on the beauty that is available to us in the present. This choice is a profound act of self-love. It is the ultimate expression of the kind roots that sustain us, allowing us to grow beyond the boundaries of our old hurts and into the vastness of our potential. As we walk this path, we might encounter moments of doubt or fear. We might wonder if we are truly healing, or if we are just going in circles. In these moments, it is helpful to look at the sky. No matter how many clouds pass by, the sky remains unchanged. It is vast, open, and always there. Our awareness is like that sky. The thoughts and emotions of our past are the clouds. Sometimes they are light and fluffy, and other times they are dark and heavy with rain. But they are not the sky. They are just passing through. By identifying with the sky of our awareness rather than the clouds of our thoughts, we find a sense of stability and peace that is not dependent on external circumstances. We realize that we are the space in which everything happens, and that space is inherently free and untouched. There was a group of monks who lived in a remote monastery, known for their incredible sense of calm and joy. A visitor once asked the head monk how they managed to stay so happy despite the simplicity of their lives. The monk laughed and said that they had a secret: they never took their thoughts too seriously. He explained that when a thought about the past or a worry about the future arose, they simply acknowledged it like a passing bird and then returned their attention to whatever they were doing. They didn't try to catch the bird or cage it, they just let it fly by. This simple practice of not hooking into our thoughts is a powerful way to heal the scars of the past. It allows us to be present with our history without being consumed by it. We can observe the memories as they arise, offer them a moment of kindness, and then let them go. This approach invites us to live with a sense of playfulness and lightness. We start to see our lives as a grand adventure, where every experience is an opportunity to learn and grow. We stop seeing ourselves as victims of our circumstances and start seeing ourselves as the authors of our own stories. We realize that while we cannot change what has happened, we have complete control over how we interpret it and how we respond to it. This is the true meaning of freedom. It is the ability to choose our own path, guided by the wisdom of our hearts and the compassion of our souls. We are no longer defined by what has been done to us, but by what we choose to do with our lives now. Think of the way a sunrise gradually illuminates the world. It doesn't happen all at once, it is a slow and beautiful progression of light. First, there is just a faint glow on the horizon, then the colors start to change, and finally, the sun emerges in all its glory. Our healing is very similar. It starts with a faint glow of awareness, a small realization that things can be different. As we continue to practice compassion, the colors of our inner world begin to shift. The darkness of our old wounds is replaced by the vibrant hues of hope and resilience. And eventually, the sun of our true nature emerges, shining its light on every aspect of our lives. We realize that the light was always there, even during the darkest night. It was just waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. There was a woman who had lost her way in life after a series of difficult setbacks. She felt as though she was walking through a thick fog, unable to see more than a few steps in front of her. One day, she decided to stop trying to find the way out and instead focus on the ground beneath her feet. She noticed the intricate patterns of the moss, the tiny insects moving through the grass, and the way the dewdrops clung to the leaves. By focusing on these small details, she felt a sense of connection to the world that she hadn't felt in years. Gradually, the fog began to lift, not because she had found the right path, but because she had found the peace that exists in the present moment. This story reminds us that healing is often found in the small, ordinary things. We don't need to do anything heroic or grand. We just need to be present and attentive to the beauty that is always around us. Compassion also helps us to navigate the complexities of our relationships. When we are at peace with our own past, we are better able to handle the imperfections and mistakes of others. We realize that everyone is doing the best they can with the tools they have. We become more patient, more forgiving, and more willing to listen. We start to see our relationships not as a source of stress, but as a source of support and growth. We learn to communicate with kindness and honesty, and to set boundaries that protect our peace without shutting others out. This creates a cycle of positive energy that benefits everyone involved. Our healing becomes a catalyst for the healing of those around us, creating a more compassionate and understanding community. Imagine a large, old tree with many branches. Some of the branches are strong and healthy, while others are gnarled and scarred from old storms. The tree doesn't try to hide the scarred branches, it simply continues to grow, providing shade and shelter for everyone who comes near. The scars are a part of the tree's history, a testament to its endurance and strength. We are like that tree. Our scars are not flaws, they are the markings of a life well lived. They show that we have survived the storms and that we have the capacity to keep growing. By embracing our scars, we become more authentic and relatable. We show others that it is possible to be both wounded and whole, and that beauty can be found in the most unlikely places. The journey of healing the scars of the past is also a journey of rediscovering our sense of purpose. When we are no longer weighed down by old hurts, we have more energy and clarity to focus on what truly matters to us. We start to ask ourselves what we want to contribute to the world, and how we can use our experiences to help others. Our pain becomes a source of inspiration, a driving force that leads us toward a more meaningful and purposeful life. We realize that our struggles were not in vain, but were the necessary preparation for the work we are meant to do. This sense of purpose is a powerful antidote to despair. It gives us a reason to get up in the morning and a sense of fulfillment that is truly profound. In the teachings of the Buddha, there is a concept called skillful means, which refers to the ability to adapt our actions to the needs of the situation. Healing involves learning how to use skillful means with ourselves. It means knowing when to push ourselves and when to rest. It means knowing when to speak our truth and when to remain silent. It means knowing when to seek help and when to rely on our own inner strength. By developing this internal wisdom, we become more adept at navigating the ups and downs of life. We become more flexible, more resilient, and more capable of handling whatever comes our way. We realize that we have an internal compass that is always pointing us toward peace and wholeness. There was a student who asked his teacher how he could find peace in a world that is so full of suffering. The teacher took a handful of salt and dropped it into a small cup of water. He asked the student to taste it, and the student made a face, saying it was too salty to drink. The teacher then took another handful of salt and dropped it into a large, clear lake. He asked the student to taste the water from the lake, and the student said it was fresh and sweet. The teacher explained that the salt is like the suffering in our lives. If we have a small heart, like the cup of water, even a little bit of suffering will make us bitter. But if we have a large heart, like the lake, the suffering will be dissolved in the vastness of our compassion. This is the goal of our journey, to expand our hearts so that they are large enough to contain all the salt of the past without becoming bitter. As we continue to expand our hearts, we find that our capacity for joy also increases. We start to find beauty in the most unexpected places, in the smile of a stranger, in the sound of the rain, in the quiet moments of the dawn. We realize that happiness is not something we have to chase, it is something that is always available to us when we are present and compassionate. We start to live with a sense of gratitude for everything that has happened, knowing that every experience has contributed to the person we are today. This sense of gratitude is the ultimate sign of healing. It is the point where we can look back at our scars and say, "Thank you for everything you have taught me." The path of compassion is a path of light, leading us out of the darkness of our past and into the brilliance of the present. It is a path that is open to everyone, regardless of their history or their circumstances. All that is required is a willing heart and a gentle spirit. As we walk this path together, let us support one another with kindness and understanding. Let us share our stories and our healing, knowing that we are all part of the same human family. Together, we can create a world where the scars of the past are no longer a source of shame, but a source of strength and wisdom. We can create a world where everyone is free to be their most authentic and compassionate selves. As the light of the day continues to evolve, let us carry this sense of peace with us into every moment. Let it be a steady presence in our hearts, a reminder of the beauty and the resilience that live within us. No matter what the future holds, we have the tools we need to meet it with grace and ease. We are the masters of our own journey, and we are guided by the kind roots of our own being. Trust in the process, trust in yourself, and know that you are always moving toward wholeness. Every breath is a celebration of life, and every step is a step toward freedom. You are whole, you are enough, and you are exactly where you need to be. The world around us is a reflection of our inner state. When we are at peace within ourselves, we see a world that is full of beauty and possibility. When we are compassionate toward our own scars, we see a world that is worthy of our love and our care. This is the ultimate power of healing. It changes not only how we see ourselves, but how we see the entire universe. We become a source of light and a source of peace for everyone we encounter. We become the change we wish to see in the world, one heart at a time. So let us continue to shine our light, to offer our compassion, and to live with a sense of wonder and joy. The journey is long, but it is also incredibly beautiful. And we are just getting started. The gentle shift from reflection into the deeper quiet of the soul is like watching the moon rise over a calm lake, its silver light touching every ripple without disturbing the water. When we reach this stage of our journey, we begin to understand that healing is not about finding a destination where all our problems disappear, but about developing a heart that is wide enough to hold everything with grace. There is a profound sense of relief that comes when we stop trying to be the person who has everything figured out. We realize that it is perfectly okay to be a beautiful, unfolding mystery, even to ourselves. Our past hurts do not need to be solved like a puzzle, they simply need to be held like a precious, fragile bowl that has survived a long journey. By giving ourselves this space, we allow our inner wisdom to emerge, much like the way stars appear as the noise of the day fades away into the velvet of the night. In a quiet forest many centuries ago, there was a monk named Megia who found himself struggling with a mind that felt like a chaotic storm. He was distracted by memories of his life before he sought the path, and the more he tried to push them away, the more they crowded his thoughts. He went to the Buddha, feeling defeated, thinking he was not cut out for a life of peace. The Buddha did not give him a complex technique or a stern lecture. Instead, he spoke to him about the 5 things that help a heart mature: good friends, a focus on virtue, meaningful conversation, energy, and the development of wisdom. He taught Megia that the mind is like a wild elephant that needs to be tamed with kindness and patience, not with a whip. This story reminds us that our healing requires the right environment and the right companions, both inside and out. We need to be a good friend to ourselves, offering encouragement when our thoughts wander back to old sorrows. When we create this supportive inner environment, our scars begin to speak a different language. They no longer tell stories of victimhood, but stories of survival and the incredible capacity of the human spirit to endure. Think of a field that has been scorched by fire. At first, it looks desolate and barren, but the intense heat actually helps certain seeds to crack open and germinate. Without the fire, those specific flowers would never have the chance to bloom. Our most difficult experiences are often those intense fires. They are painful and overwhelming while they are happening, but they also have the power to crack open the hard shells of our hearts, allowing a new kind of compassion and resilience to grow. We start to see that our depth of character is directly related to the challenges we have faced and overcome. There was a woman who lived in a small coastal village, and her life was marked by the constant ebb and flow of the tide. She had experienced many losses, and for a long time, she felt as though her heart was like the shore, constantly being eroded by the waves of her grief. One day, she noticed that the tide did not just take things away, it also brought things back. It brought beautiful shells, smooth stones, and bits of driftwood that had been shaped by the sea. She started to collect these treasures and arrange them in her home. She realized that her grief was like the tide, it was a natural movement of life. Instead of fighting it, she began to appreciate what it brought to her, a deeper appreciation for the present, a more tender heart, and a profound connection to the mystery of existence. She stopped seeing herself as someone who was losing everything and started seeing herself as someone who was being reshaped into something more complex and beautiful. This shift in perspective is what allows us to move through the world with a sense of wonder rather than a sense of dread. We begin to trust that even the difficult moments have a purpose in the larger tapestry of our lives. We stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "How can I use this to grow?" This is the essence of using compassion as a healing balm. It turns our attention away from the why and toward the how of our living. We become curious about our own reactions, observing our thoughts and feelings with the same interest we might have for a strange and beautiful bird that has landed in our garden. We don't need to capture it or change it, we just need to be present with it. The practice of mindfulness is a powerful ally in this process. By staying anchored in the breath, we create a steady point of reference that the past cannot touch. Each inhalation is a fresh start, and each exhalation is a letting go. When we breathe consciously, we are telling our nervous system that we are safe in this moment. This safety is the foundation upon which all healing is built. It allows our bodies to release the tension of old traumas and our minds to settle into a state of quiet alertness. We realize that we don't have to carry the past in our muscles or our bones. We can let it go, breath by breath, until we feel as light as a feather floating on a gentle summer breeze. Imagine a large, ancient library where every book represents a different experience from your life. Some books are filled with joy, while others are heavy with sadness or regret. For a long time, you might have been stuck in the section of the library where the sad books are kept, reading the same chapters over and over again. Compassion is the librarian who comes to you and gently suggests that you explore other sections of the library. They remind you that while the sad books are part of your collection, they are not the only books you have. You have stories of courage, moments of laughter, and chapters of quiet peace. By expanding your reading, you gain a more balanced view of your history. You see that your life is a vast and varied collection, and that every story has its place. There was a group of children playing in a park, and one of them tripped and scraped their knee. They began to cry, looking at the small wound with fear and pain. An older child came over, sat down beside them, and showed them a similar scar on their own knee from a long time ago. They explained that it would sting for a while, but then it would turn into a badge of honor that showed how brave they were. The younger child stopped crying, comforted by the knowledge that they were not alone and that their pain would eventually pass. This simple act of sharing our scars is one of the most powerful ways we can heal each other. When we are honest about our own struggles, we give others the courage to be honest about theirs. We create a community of brave me's, where everyone's scars are recognized as signs of growth and endurance. In the teachings of the Buddha, there is a beautiful concept called equanimity, which is the ability to remain balanced and calm regardless of what is happening around us. It is often compared to a mountain that remains unmoved by the wind, the rain, or the sun. Developing equanimity does not mean that we stop feeling emotions, it means that we stop being controlled by them. We can feel the sting of an old memory without being pulled into a spiral of despair. We can experience a moment of joy without clinging to it and fearing its end. This balance is the ultimate state of healing. It is the peace that surpasses understanding, a quiet strength that carries us through the ups and downs of life with a sense of grace and dignity. Think of a musician who is learning to play a very difficult piece of music. They make many mistakes along the way, hitting wrong notes and losing the rhythm. But they don't stop and give up. They simply acknowledge the mistake and keep playing, trusting that with practice, the music will eventually flow smoothly. Our lives are like that music. We have all hit wrong notes in the past, and we have all lost our rhythm at times. But the music of our lives is still playing. Compassion is the practice that helps us to keep going, to find the melody again even after a difficult passage. It teaches us to be patient with our mistakes and to celebrate the moments when the music is clear and beautiful. We are all musicians in the grand symphony of life, and our unique songs are all the more meaningful because of the challenges we have faced in learning them. The journey of healing the scars of the past is also a journey of reclaiming our voice. When we have been hurt, we often lose our ability to speak our truth. We might become quiet and withdrawn, or we might speak in a way that is defensive and guarded. Compassion helps us to find our authentic voice again. It gives us the courage to say, "This is how I feel, and this is what I need." It allows us to communicate with honesty and vulnerability, which are the foundations of deep connection. When we speak from a place of healed brokenness, our words have a power and a resonance that can move mountains. We become advocates for our own well-being and for the well-being of others. There was a story told of a great king who was troubled by a recurring dream of a dark and scary forest. He consulted all the wise people in his kingdom, but no one could explain the dream. Finally, a humble forest dweller told the king that the forest in his dream was actually his own mind, and the darkness was the shadows of his past regrets. The dweller suggested that instead of being afraid of the forest, the king should enter it with a lantern of compassion. The king followed this advice, and as he walked through the dark woods of his mind, the lantern's light revealed that the monsters he was afraid of were just old memories that were longing for his attention and care. By shining the light of compassion on them, the shadows disappeared, and the forest became a place of peace and beauty. This story is a powerful reminder that our fears are often just parts of ourselves that are waiting to be understood. When we meet our monsters with kindness, they lose their power to haunt us. We realize that we are the light that dispels the darkness, and that we have the power to transform our inner world. This transformation is not something that happens overnight, it is a gradual process of shining the light, one memory at a time. Every time we choose to be kind to ourselves, we are adding more fuel to our lantern. We are creating a world where the shadows of the past can no longer hide, and where we can walk with confidence and peace. As we continue to walk this path, let us be mindful of the beauty that is always around us. Even in the midst of our healing, there are moments of profound joy and wonder. We might see a beautiful sunset, hear the laughter of a child, or feel the warmth of a friend's hand. These moments are the evidence that life is still good, and that we are still capable of experiencing its magic. We don't need to wait until we are fully healed to enjoy life. We can find happiness right here and right now, in the small and ordinary things. In fact, it is often through these small moments of joy that our deepest healing occurs. They remind us of our inherent worthiness and our connection to the source of all life. Imagine a large, old tree that has been shaped by the wind over many years. Its trunk is twisted and its branches grow in unusual directions, but it is precisely these features that make the tree so striking and beautiful. It tells a story of survival and adaptation. We are like that tree. Our experiences have shaped us in unique ways, and our twists and turns are what make us who we are. We don't need to be perfectly straight and symmetrical to be valuable. Our value lies in our authenticity and our resilience. By embracing our unique shape, we give others permission to do the same. We create a forest of diverse and beautiful beings, each with their own story to tell. The path of compassion is a path of homecoming, a return to the true self that is inherently wise and kind. It is a journey of uncovering the layers of our conditioning and discovering the radiant being that lives underneath. This self has always been there, even during the most difficult times. It is the part of us that observed the pain without being destroyed by it. By practicing self-compassion, we are strengthening our connection to this true self. We are creating a safe harbor within ourselves where we can always find refuge. We are learning to trust our own inner guidance and to live with a sense of purpose and meaning. As the afternoon light begins to fade, let us sit together in this shared space of peace and understanding. Let us breathe in the quiet strength of our own hearts and breathe out the tension of the day. Let us acknowledge the progress we have made on our journey, no matter how small it might seem. Every step toward compassion is a victory, and every moment of kindness is a miracle. We are all travelers on this path, and we are all learning as we go. There is no need to be perfect, we just need to be present. Trust in the process, trust in yourself, and know that you are always supported by the boundless love of the universe. The journey of healing the scars of the past is a sacred task, a way of honoring our own humanity and the humanity of others. It is a process of transforming suffering into wisdom and pain into love. As we do this, we find that our lives become more vibrant and meaningful. We move through the world with a sense of ease and grace, knowing that we have the tools we need to handle whatever comes our way. We are no longer defined by our history, but by the compassion we choose to live with now. We are the architects of our own peace, and we are building a life that is truly beautiful. So let us continue to shine our light, to offer our kindness, and to live with an open heart. The world needs our compassion now more than ever. By healing ourselves, we are contributing to the healing of the world. We are part of a grand and beautiful movement of love and understanding. Every breath is an opportunity to begin again, and every moment is a chance to choose peace. May you be well, may you be happy, and may you find the serenity that you truly deserve. The light within you is strong and bright, and it will always guide you home to the kind roots of your being. Keep walking, keep breathing, and keep trusting in the infinite possibilities of this very moment. The shifting light of our shared journey now settles into a warm and steady glow, much like the embers of a fire that continue to radiate heat long after the flames have calmed. When we reach this level of understanding, we begin to see that the stories of our lives are not just about us as individuals, but about the profound interconnectedness of all living beings. We realize that the pain we felt was not a solitary burden, but a thread in the vast tapestry of human experience. Every heart has known the sting of a cold wind, and every soul has waited for the dawn. This realization brings a deep sense of relief because it dissolves the walls of isolation that our traumas often build around us. We are no longer alone in our scars, we are part of a grand, courageous community of survivors, all learning to walk with a bit more grace and a lot more kindness. In the time of the Buddha, there was a young woman named Kisa Gautami who experienced a loss so profound it nearly shattered her mind. She carried her burden from door to door, pleading for a way to undo what had been done, unable to accept the finality of her grief. When she finally approached the Buddha, he did not offer her a miracle or a simple platitude. Instead, he asked her to bring him a handful of mustard seeds from a house where no one had ever lost a loved one. Kisa Gautami traveled through the entire village, and at every house, she found the same story. Parents had passed, children had been lost, friends had gone. She realized that her sorrow, while uniquely hers, was also a part of the universal rhythm of life. This awareness did not make her loss smaller, but it made her heart larger. She found a new kind of strength in the shared vulnerability of her neighbors, and her healing began the moment she felt compassion for their pain as well as her own. This expansion of the heart is the true fruit of our healing work. We stop asking why the storm happened and start appreciating the resilience of the trees that stood through it. When we look at the scars on our own spirits, we can see them as the places where we were forced to grow stronger, much like the way a bone becomes denser at the sight of a break. We begin to inhabit our lives with a quiet authority, a sense of, I am still here, which is the most powerful affirmation there is. This is not a loud or boastful strength, but a gentle, rooted stability that allows us to be a refuge for others who are still caught in the middle of their own storms. We become the people who can sit in silence with a friend, offering a presence that says, I know it hurts, and I know you will find your way through. Think of a wide, ancient river that has traveled hundreds of miles to reach the sea. Along its path, it has encountered rocks, fallen trees, and narrow canyons. Each obstacle has changed the river's course, adding ripples and whirlpools to its flow. By the time it reaches the ocean, the river is deep, complex, and full of the history of its journey. It does not try to go back and remove the rocks from its upper reaches. it simply carries the wisdom of those encounters into the vastness of the deep. Our lives are that river. Every difficult memory and every old wound has added a unique resonance to our being. We are deeper because of what we have survived. We are more vast because we have learned to flow around what we could not change. There was a master weaver in a small village who was known for creating rugs that seemed to glow with a life of their own. One day, a student noticed that the master intentionally tucked a few mismatched threads into a corner of every masterpiece. When the student asked why, the weaver explained that perfection is a cold and fragile thing, but imperfection is where the soul resides. He said that the small flaws were like windows that allowed the light of the human spirit to shine through the pattern. Our scars are those mismatched threads. They are the parts of us that don't quite fit the perfect image we thought we had to maintain. But it is precisely through these imperfections that we connect most deeply with others. It is where our warmth, our empathy, and our true beauty are found. We can stop trying to hide the mistakes in our weave and start seeing them as the most luminous parts of our design. The path of compassion also teaches us to be wary of the stories our minds create to keep us in a state of defense. We often build elaborate narratives about who was right and who was wrong, keeping the fire of our resentment alive long after the event has passed. This is like holding a hot coal and waiting for the other person to get burned. Compassion invites us to put the coal down. It doesn't mean we have to agree with what happened, but it means we refuse to let that old fire continue to consume our current peace. We can acknowledge the truth of our experience without letting it become a prison. We can say, that was a part of my past, but it is not the ruler of my present. This internal boundary is a profound act of self-protection and self-love. Imagine you are walking through a beautiful, sun-drenched meadow. The grass is high, the flowers are in bloom, and the air is filled with the scent of summer. Occasionally, you might stumble over a hidden stone or step into a patch of thorns. It is natural to feel a sting of annoyance or pain in that moment. But if you spend the rest of your walk staring at the ground, waiting for the next stone, you will miss the eagles soaring above and the mountains on the horizon. Healing is the process of learning to look up again. It is the decision to trust the beauty of the meadow even though you know it contains a few thorns. We acknowledge the bumps in the path, we tend to our feet when they are sore, and then we return our gaze to the vastness of the world around us. There was a story of a wise old owl who lived in a hollow tree and watched the forest change through the seasons. One day, a young hawk arrived, complaining bitterly about a storm that had damaged its nest. The hawk was so focused on the broken twigs that it refused to hunt or fly. The owl listened patiently and then pointed to a group of birds building a new nest in a nearby tree, using some of the very twigs that the storm had blown down. The owl whispered that the wind can break things, but it also provides the materials for something new. Our past losses are those broken twigs. We can spend our lives mourning the nest that was, or we can pick up the pieces and use them to build a version of ourselves that is even more suited to the current season. The choice to rebuild is a quiet, daily victory of the spirit. In the gardens of the heart, we learn the value of spiritual composting. This is the art of taking our most difficult emotions, our anger, our shame, our regret, and turning them into the rich soil of wisdom. Instead of burying these feelings in a dark corner where they can turn into bitterness, we bring them into the light of awareness. We observe them with curiosity and kindness, allowing them to break down and transform. We find that our deepest empathy often grows out of the places where we were once most hurt. Our greatest patience often comes from the times we were most tested. This transformation is not a magic trick, it is the natural result of meeting our pain with a compassionate heart. We are not just getting rid of the bad, we are using it to create the good. Think of the way a master musician handles a quiet, melancholic passage in a symphony. They don't rush through it to get back to the loud and happy parts. They play the sad notes with just as much care and precision as the joyful ones. They understand that the beauty of the music comes from the contrast, the tension between light and shadow. Our lives are a grand symphony, and our scars are the minor chords that give the melody its depth and soul. When we stop trying to skip the sad parts of our history, we discover a new kind of harmony. We can sit with our memories with the same poise as a musician, allowing the fullness of our experience to resonate through us without being overwhelmed by it. There was a traveler who was carrying a heavy bag of stones, believing they were valuable gems he had collected on his journey. As he climbed a steep mountain, the weight of the bag became almost unbearable. He met a sage who asked to see the treasures inside. When the traveler opened the bag, he saw that the gems were actually just ordinary rocks he had picked up in moments of fear or anger. The sage told him that he was free to leave the bag at the foot of the mountain and continue his climb unburdened. The traveler realized that he had been the one choosing to carry the weight all along. We are often like that traveler, carrying the stones of our past mistakes and traumas as if they were precious parts of our identity. Compassion allows us to open the bag, look at the stones for what they really are, and leave them behind. We can walk into our future with light steps and an open heart. The journey of healing is also about reclaiming our sense of humor. When we are stuck in the past, everything feels heavy and serious. But as we heal, we begin to see the irony and the simple humanity in our struggles. We can laugh at our own quirks and the strange paths we have taken. This laughter is a sign of health. It shows that we are no longer being crushed by our experiences. We can look at our younger selves with a wink and a smile, offering a kind of grandfatherly or grandmotherly affection to the version of us that was so worried and so afraid. This lightness of being is a gift we give to ourselves and to everyone around us. It makes our presence a joy to be in, a reminder that peace is possible even after a long struggle. As we continue to navigate the landscape of our memories, let us remember that we are the creators of our own inner weather. We cannot always control the clouds that drift into our minds, but we can decide how we relate to them. We can be the warm sun that eventually thins the fog, or the steady wind that moves the heavy clouds along. We practice being the wide, open sky that remains untouched by whatever weather passes through. This perspective gives us a sense of immense freedom. We are no longer victims of our moods or our memories. We are the vast space in which they arise and dissolve. This is the ultimate refuge, the place of kind roots where we can always find rest and renewal. Every step we take in this direction is an act of courage. It is not easy to look at old wounds and choose to be kind instead of bitter. It is not easy to let go of a grievance that we have nurtured for years. But the rewards are beyond measure. We find a sense of vitality and presence that we thought was lost forever. We start to experience moments of pure, uncaused joy, a simple delight in being alive. We see the world with fresh eyes, noticing the beauty in the mundane and the sacred in the ordinary. Our healing becomes a living prayer, a testament to the power of the human heart to mend and to flourish against all odds. Imagine a small, clear spring bubbling up from the earth. It is always fresh, always cool, and always available to anyone who is thirsty. No matter how much water is taken, the spring never runs dry because it is connected to a deep, underground source. Our compassion is like that spring. When we connect with the kind roots of our being, we have an endless supply of kindness to offer ourselves and others. We don't have to worry about running out or being drained, because the source is infinite. We are simply the vessel through which this love flows into the world. By keeping our own channel clear of the debris of the past, we allow the water to flow freely and purely. The journey of soothing is a return to our natural state of wholeness. It is the process of peeling away the layers of fear and confusion that have obscured our true nature for so long. As we do this, we find that we don't need to become anything better, we just need to be more of who we already are. We are inherently wise, inherently kind, and inherently at peace. The scars of the past were just the experiences that helped us realize this truth. They were the catalyst for our awakening, the friction that polished the diamond of our mind. We can look back at them with a sense of profound gratitude, knowing that they were the very things that led us home to ourselves. As the quiet of this reflection deepens, let us hold a moment of silence for all the parts of ourselves that have suffered. Let us offer a mental embrace to the child who was afraid, the teenager who felt misunderstood, and the adult who felt overwhelmed. We tell them, you did well, you survived, and you are safe now. This internal reunion is a powerful form of healing. It integrates our past into our present in a way that is harmonious and loving. We become a unified whole, a person who is comfortable in their own skin and at peace with their own history. We are ready to step into the next moment with clarity, purpose, and a heart that is wide open to the infinite beauty of life. The world is waiting for us to shine our light. There is so much work to be done, so much love to be shared, and so many hearts that need the comfort of a healed presence. By tending to our own, kind roots, we are making ourselves available for this greater purpose. We are becoming the beacons of hope and the ambassadors of peace that our world so desperately needs. Every thought of compassion, every word of kindness, and every act of forgiveness is a contribution to the global healing. We are all in this together, and every step we take toward our own wholeness is a step for all of humanity. Trust in the path, trust in your heart, and know that the best is yet to come. The horizon is bright, and the journey is a beautiful one. Keep walking with grace and with love. The light now deepens into the rich, quiet amber of a sunset that has traveled a long way across the horizon, bringing with it a sense of completion that is not an end, but a beautiful merging into the vastness of the night sky. In this space of profound stillness, we begin to see that the healing of our old wounds has transformed our very presence into a silent blessing. We no longer need to speak about compassion, for we have become it. The way we walk, the way we listen, and the way we breathe all carry the resonance of a heart that has faced its shadows and found the light within them. This is the ultimate gift of the path we have shared together, the realization that we are not merely survivors of our past, but the conscious architects of a future built on the foundation of an unbreakable inner peace. There is an ancient story about a traveler who was searching for the most precious jewel in the world. He climbed high mountains and crossed deep valleys, always looking outward for the sparkle that would change his life. One evening, exhausted and discouraged, he sat down by a clear mountain stream and looked at his own reflection in the water. As he became still, he noticed a soft radiance coming from his own chest. He reached inside his tattered cloak and found the jewel he had been seeking all along, tucked away in a secret pocket he had forgotten existed. The jewel was not something he had found in the world, it was something he had carried with him through every storm and every struggle. Our true nature is that jewel. The scars of our history were simply the layers of dust that had hidden its light, and our journey of healing was the gentle process of polishing it until its brilliance could finally be seen. We realize now that we do not need to wait for the world to change or for others to apologize before we can be happy. Our peace is an internal spring that flows regardless of the weather. We have learned to sit with our memories like old friends who no longer have the power to disturb us. We can look at the moments of betrayal, loss, or failure and see them as the necessary labor of a soul coming into its own. We recognize that even the most painful chapters were written in the ink of growth. Like a tree that has survived a harsh winter and now stands tall with new buds, we are revitalized by the very experiences that once threatened to break us. We stand rooted in the kind roots of our being, connected to the earth and reaching for the sky with equal strength. Think of a wide, silent hall where a single candle is burning. The light of that one candle is enough to dispel the darkness of 1,000 years. Our awareness is that candle. No matter how long the shadows of the past have lingered, they cannot survive the steady light of our present compassion. When we bring our focus to this moment, we find that the darkness was never an entity in itself, but simply the absence of light. By choosing to be kind to ourselves right here and right now, we are lighting the candle. We are reclaiming our power from the ghosts of yesterday and the worries of tomorrow. We are choosing to live in the radiance of the truth, which is that we are inherently whole, inherently worthy, and inherently free. There was once a wise woman who lived in a small hut at the edge of the sea. People would travel from far away to ask her how to deal with their heavy burdens. She would always take them to the shore and ask them to write their sorrows in the sand at the edge of the water. As they watched, the waves would gently wash over the words, leaving the sand smooth and clean once again. She would tell them that the ocean of compassion is much larger than any word they could ever write. The past is like those marks in the sand, it only remains as long as we keep drawing it back in. The tide of our breath and the waves of our awareness are constantly offering us a clean slate. We can choose to let the water wash away the stories that no longer serve us, leaving us with a heart that is as vast and open as the sea. This sense of openness allows us to live with a new kind of bravery. We are no longer afraid of getting hurt because we know we have the tools to heal. We are no longer afraid of making mistakes because we know they are the seeds of wisdom. We move through the world with a diamond mind that is clear, strong, and capable of reflecting the beauty of everything it encounters. We find joy in the smallest things, the way the light filters through a window, the taste of a simple meal, the sound of a distant bell. These are not just distractions, they are the substance of a life lived in the present. They are the reminders that we are alive and that life is a miraculous gift, even with all its imperfections. The journey we have taken is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. We have looked into the depths of our own suffering and decided to answer it with love. This is the highest form of alchemy, turning the lead of our pain into the gold of our wisdom. We carry this gold with us now, not as a heavy burden, but as a light that illuminates our path. We are the masters of our own narrative, and we are choosing to write a story of healing, grace, and profound peace. The scars we carry are the constellations of our own personal sky, guiding us toward the home we never truly left. We are the peace we have been seeking, and we are the love we have been waiting for. As we rest in this final reflection, let us feel the profound connection that exists between all hearts that have ever sought healing. We are part of a timeless lineage of seekers who have discovered that the way out of suffering is through the door of compassion. We offer our peace to the world, knowing that every healed heart makes the world a little brighter. We walk forward with a sense of quiet joy, ready to embrace whatever comes next with an open heart and a gentle spirit. The past has been honored, the present is being lived, and the future is a wide-open horizon of infinite possibility. Trust in your light, trust in your roots, and know that you are always exactly where you are meant to be. The quiet of the evening settles over us like a soft blanket, and the world seems to hold its breath in a moment of perfect harmony. In this stillness, we find the answers to questions we no longer need to ask. We are at peace with our history, at peace with ourselves, and at peace with the world. The journey is complete, yet it is also just beginning, for every moment is a new chance to express the beauty of a healed heart. May you always carry this sense of tranquility within you, a steady flame that can never be extinguished. May your life be a living song of compassion, and may your presence be a refuge for all who cross your path. You are whole, you are free, and you are deeply loved. Walk in peace, live in light, and trust in the boundless grace of the kind roots that sustain us all. I have shared these reflections with you as a fellow traveler, a friend sitting by your side in the quiet of the dawn. May these words linger in your heart like the fragrance of a flower, reminding you of your own beauty and strength whenever you need it most. Would you like me to create a specific meditation prompt or a calming image based on this journey to help you anchor this feeling of healing in your daily life?